Welcome to Fire Talk, where we give you the latest news and updates on Southeastern athletics. I'm Drew Watson, Athletics Director here at SCU. I'm your host, and our president and host, our normal host, Dr. Engel, is on the road. But we have our top pinch hitter in Donnie Smith, our Director of Athletic Communications. How are you today, Donnie?
Doing all right. I think the Diamondbacks might be able to use a little bit of a clutch pinch hitter right now.
Yeah, they're struggling right now.
Kind of up against it a little bit.
Should be the Phillies, but that's a topic for another day.
Wah.
So, Donnie, I can't believe it, but we're at the end of the fall season. It's playoff time, and joining us for a special playoff edition of Fire Talk are Clay and Caleb Roberts. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
How you doing today?
Doing well.
Yeah?
Doing well.
Now, this is both of your second appearance on Fire Talk. Are you less nervous this time than you maybe were the first time?
I felt pretty good. I wore a sweatshirt just in case. You cover up some sweat there, but I feel pretty good about it.
So as I mentioned, Dr. Engel is traveling today. He's in Southern California, his home away from home. Whenever he goes there, the first thing he gets is an In-N-Out burger. Oh, yeah. Okay, so people have strong feelings on In-N-Out. Like, how do you guys, the three of you, feel about In-N-Out?
I'm a big fan.
Yeah?
Double animal style. Here we go.
Okay. Clay?
I'm just going for a milkshake usually.
Milkshakes are pretty good. Donnie?
Yeah, I like hamburgers. It's hard to mess that up, so I'm good. Yeah.
Well, there's a certain administrator here who likes to give Dr. Engel a hard time, and he just calls In-N-Out the McDonald's of the West. And Dr. Engel gets very offended by that. But I think for this administrator, who may or may not be Chris Owen, he feels like it's a little bit complicated, like animal style, all the things that you have to go through to order what you want.
You need to do what I do at Starbucks and just order what you want in whatever phrase you want. So like when I go to Starbucks, I ask for a medium coffee. I don't ask for the venti. I don't ask for the grande. I just want a medium coffee.
You let them translate.
Yes.
Is that what we do at In-N-Out?
Go for it, yeah. If you want it with whatever, just tell them that. And then they can say, oh, animal style? Yeah, sure, if that's what you want to call it.
So do you go animal style in the fries?
I do.
Okay, that's a lot.
Fully loaded.
That's a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a clogged artery.
Yeah, or two.
You got to go for a walk afterwards.
No, I like In-N-Out. I usually go animal style, but, sometimes just a double-double, just the regular way.
Keep it classy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I usually just go single, kind of pace yourself a little bit, save room for that shake that Clay mentioned.
Or you could go two singles, and it's kind of like a double-double plus.
That's aggressive.
Yeah, very aggressive. All right, so Donnie, you want to lead us off here with our first question for these guys?
Yeah. So before we get into the Sun Conference tournament next week, women's soccer, men's soccer, you guys are brothers. You get to coach at the same place. Clay, you're the oldest. Caleb, tell us where you fall in the pecking order of things.
I am the second oldest, so just a few years behind Clay. Yeah, 3.5, 4 years.
Okay.
So how was it growing up together? I'm sure a little bit of soccer battles here and there, some backyard hoops and whatnot. How were things? How would you describe it?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of sports. We're one of four, 2 of 4 boys here, and so sports, not just soccer, were common, right? So you got backyard football, you got baseball games going on, but soccer for sure. I think we all have just kind of drifted towards it as we got older, and competitive spirits, were in each of us. So some fun battles.
The competitive spirit pick up a little bit, beating up on each other.
Yeah, I think we could turn anything into a competition as we grew up. I mean, you could say, do the laundry. I can do it faster. And literally anything and everything can become a competition and quickly a fight after that. Yeah.
Yeah, so some brothers, are tight growing up and then remain tight, and others fight like cats and dogs when they're young and then become close. How would you categorize you guys?
I think we're always close. I think that our family just dynamic. We got great parents, and they did a great job of teaching us that, teaching the importance of family. And so I think we were really close. We remain really close, to this day, and have the same competitive spirits. I mean, we just went on a 4-brother golf outing last Cinco de Mayo weekend, and I have not played that much golf in a weekend ever, and the old guy here definitely was feeling it, and these guys were still peppering it by the 3rd round. And, but it's just fun. It creates a fun atmosphere.
Now you have 3 boys, you have 2 girls. That's got to be a lot of fun watching them grow up. Are there any traditions that you had as kids that you've passed on to them?
I wouldn't necessarily say traditions, but just the importance of family. Everything we try to do revolves around, okay, what does everyone want to do?
Yeah.
You know, what is Clay and his family doing? What are the other brothers and my mom doing? So constantly trying to be around each other on those big holidays, not centered on different things, but make sure family is the center point. It's the biggest tradition, really.
And you see that at games, right? On the north side, the northwest corner there of the field is the Roberts section, and all the kids are mixing it up and running behind the bushes, and moms are trying to corral them, and it's really fun to be there and watch them.
It's strategically placed too. If we need a ball to roll out on the field to stop play, we got signals in place.
It does happen.
It does. I mean, I may have let the cat out of the hat there, but they love it. They love being together. Every one of them. There's not an age difference. They're all.
Yeah.
They don't see each other with that gap. They go for it. Last night Halloween, they went for it. It's just a fun time.
Yeah.
And that's cool. That's stuff they'll never forget. They're playing with their cousins at soccer matches, and that's really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did everybody dress up as yesterday?
Yesterday, this is our 4th Halloween day in a row for our family. Yesterday, my oldest daughter dressed up as an American flag and
Patriot,
Yeah.
True patriot, and a UCF cheerleader.
Okay.
They get to pick their own outfits yesterday, so
Awesome.
it's easy.
And Grandpa was a UCF legend in football, right?
Yes, he is a legend in football.
Okay.
So that's where that comes from.
How about your three?
My guys I had a Spider-Man. I had a cowboy bandit because he wanted
Okay.
cover things up
It
there.
was very specific.
COVID cowboy?
Yeah, COVID cowboy. And a soccer player.
Okay.
They go for it. They had some originals and they had some creativity.
I like it.
That's cool.
You guys coming off of successful regular seasons. Clay, you're going to be the number 3 seed in this weekend's Sun Conference tournament. Caleb, you guys got a first-round bye as the second-place team in the league. Pretty difficult regular season schedule you had to go through this year with the double up in the Sun Conference. Just kind of give us some of the highs and lows from the regular season this year as you get ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, I think there were, I think highs and lows is the best way to say it. There's such a long season, but there's no real time for practice. You're just playing a game, recovering, going again, and the weight of every game was so high and intense that, there was just a mentality of, okay, let's get ready for the next one. You can't really harbor the feelings of the last one, whatever the result was, if it's in our favor or not. You had to move on to the next one and kind of restructure the mindset going into it. But there were definitely some games where you felt like we were really good and deserving. And namely at first time out down at St. Thomas. We walk out of there and it's 1-0. We were hitting they're winning. We're chasing the game. We hit the crossbar. There's moments, seconds left. We just throw everybody forward and go for it, and they get one at the buzzer, so the scoreline looks different in the game. But, that could be viewed as a low, but, maybe it was a high as well. It kind of kicked us off and said, hey, we're right there. We need to just stay the course. And, the strenuousness of the season, injuries pile up and, I think about even just this past week at the Florida Memorial game, going down a couple of goals and then rallying to come back and win a great game, and so it's had those up and downs, those ebbs and flows that you would want in a competitive season. So I think that's how it's best described. It's been one of the most competitive seasons I think in my time here.
Yeah.
And Caleb, you guys had to jump right into it against a couple of top 10 teams, and things didn't get much easier from there.
No, the schedule is very difficult this year by design. You want to play those tough games early to set you up for what the Sun Conference offers on the women's side. And so it helped us, even though we didn't turn out too well in the first couple of games, but throughout the rest of the season, we had that mentality of every game means something, because rather than starting conference standings the final month, it's the whole season now.
Yeah.
So every game you have to take seriously.
Well, and those early 2 losses could have sidetracked you for a while, but it was really cool how you guys bounced back right away and took care of business. Now, as we head into the tournament, you both have home matches to start out. Who do you play and when do you play?
We'll play the winner of St. Thomas and Warner. Okay. They'll play on Saturday. We'll play Tuesday night at 7.
Okay.
So we're excited for that.
Yeah, and we're Saturday night here versus Weber International. a good matchup. You know, I think that everyone's playing really good right now going into the tournament. So our communication it's up for grabs. You know, whoever wants it this tournament, they can get it. It's within reach. There's no one that's really out of reach, and so that pathway puts us on if we're able to win down at Kaiser in the semifinal on Tuesday, and then the final at the end of the week. So we're excited for the path that we're on.
How do we match up against Weber?
Well, we were able to beat them twice, in the regular season, but they're a very good team. And I think those were actually two games that we played really well. We started well, and maintained throughout the game and finished well, which has kind of been an Achilles heel for us. There's been some games where we didn't start out well, and we've either chased the game or it's been enough that we couldn't overcome the deficit. And so the importance of starting out well, if we're able to do that again, then hey, I would naturally say feel good about our chances, but it's the tournament, and it's do or die, and they have the same mentality. Everyone's played this long season to reach this goal. So, a seeding really is just an organization of who you get to play and, who really wants it and who's determined on the day, I think, is going to be our champion.
Now we add the overtimes back now, correct? So it's no longer just finishing 90 minutes with a tie.
To check the rules again.
Yeah.
So they're back.
And we play all of it.
Yeah, it's
All of
crazy.
it.
It's not golden goal.
Yeah.
Which is different,
Yeah.
On the women's side of things, from a coaching standpoint, you're going to play either St. Thomas or Warner. You might have a feel for how that game's going to go. But from your preparation, until you know the result of that game Saturday, how do you go about practice and kind of scouting and getting your team ready to go?
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much scouting for the next few days. It's just more of getting us ready, getting us in the best place health-wise, getting our movements right, just really focusing on what we want to do so that as we know Saturday night, kind of, a walk around Sunday night and Monday, we can focus on another opponent. We're not going to overdo it focusing until we know who we're going to play.
Playing a team for the third time this year, I mean, there can't be many secrets left, right?
There shouldn't be. But we'll be watching the game Saturday night just to make sure there's no secret plays or set pieces or a random player they've been sitting waiting for this moment. So we'll be watching.
You watch that on the computer, or you go down there and scout them in person?
I will watch it on the computer.
Okay.
Yeah.
If it was maybe 45 minutes away, you might go down, but
Live streams are pretty good in Sun Conference. So
That's good. All right, now I want you to both pretend you're ESPN analysts, right? You're sitting in the studio and you're analyzing this tournament. Okay, so how do you analyze the top 6 seeds as we enter the women's tournament?
For the women's side, the top 6 seeds all have the ability to win the tournament.
Yeah.
And you've seen it throughout the season when you're looking at the 3-6 matchup with St. Thomas and Warner. They tied this year. And so that's going to be a very good game. You look at the 4-5 with Kaiser and Ave. They tied this year as well. And so you're looking at, even though the standings may be one thing, the matchups are completely different. And then you look at the semifinal matchups that have the potential to occurring. Right? There's ties with us in St. Thomas. There could be a Warner game, which could go either way. Then you look at the SCAD versus Ave game.
Mm-hmm.
That was a tight game. Sure. Or SCAD versus Kaiser, there was a tie there. And so the top 6 are very even walking into kind of this tournament. And so I feel very fortunate to have a Saturday bye.
Yeah.
Extra rest, extra preparation to get to Tuesday.
And now I think the elephant in the room is Kaiser, sitting at 4th. And not to set you up for any trash talk, I don't want you to do that.
No.
But that's got to be something that program's not used to that. Playing a quarterfinal and then having to hopefully move up, for them into the semis.
Yeah, I think it says a lot to where just kind of the conferences come overall, rather than it being a one-team show or there's 4 teams in the top 18 this week, and so we're having a very strong showing heading into the national tournament of who's going to be in, who's going to be out. Of if it falls correctly, there could be 4 Sun Conference teams in there, including Kaiser.
That'd be great. Clay, what about you?
Yeah, I think there's no secret. St. Thomas has dominated the regular season, and if you had to lay it out there, they're the heavy favorite. They got the pressure, to do it and win it, or hey, somebody's going to upset them. And it's always, I would think, and speaking on behalf of all the coaches, they're at the top, but they're not out of reach. And Kaiser got them this past week, on the regular season game, and so it kind of it kind of gave another pathway, a different view to say, okay, we played them a certain way, they played them a certain way. Let's learn from that. Let's pick up on that. But they're the heavy favorite for sure, and they're a tough team, no doubt. They're definitely have been deserving of everything they've received this year. But after that, I think it's up for grabs. You can go through the matchups, and there's not any of the teams remaining except for, I guess, us against Weber. So I guess some pressure on us. Like you said, it's hard to beat a team 3 times, but nobody else falls in the category there. And so we tied with Kaiser. They beat us. We lost to Florida Memorial. We beat them. And so SCAD, we beat them. We tied them up there. And so everyone's capable. I think that they have each team have threats to win the game. I think we're going to see a conference player of the year potential not come from the number 1, 2, or 3 team. I think it's going to come from a lower team. But that player has done a tremendous job to help get his team, where they're at. Like you said, just get to the tournament, and it's going to be up for grabs. So I think that's probably the best way to say that after kind of putting St. Thomas to the side, on the day, anybody can move forward.
So I don't want you to step in here, but I'm going to ask you a question that could lead there. Now, Caleb mentioned there's 4 teams on the women's side in the top 18. So obviously the Sun Conference is very strong nationally. I think the men's side of the Sun Conference is just as strong, but we don't have 4 teams in the top 18. How does the men's side of this conference get the recognition that we deserve?
I agree with you. There are at least 4 to 5 teams that are right there on the national level. But we have a rating system, that's set up the way it is. Yeah. And I think there are some conferences geographically near us that have done a good job of, growing and expanding and limiting the outside of non-conference, the non-conference games, so that they don't play. And so we're kind of stuck. Geographically, it stitches us up a little bit. Yeah. And so I think in the eyes of a lot of the other raters, hey, we get a knock of, well, they don't go and play other teams. Well, we also say, well, you don't come and play us. Right. We've extended the invitation every year. We work well within our conference to try to double up and get games. We've hosted teams here and brought St. Thomas or Warner up, and so we're doing our best, within our means to do the necessary things to kind of close that gap. I don't think the other teams are, as welcoming, and that's okay. We just got to play that system, and hopefully that will change. And I know next year, we're talking about scheduling next year, we're going up to play Lindsey Wilson. Yeah. We'll go up in that trip, play Bethel. We're going up to play Georgia Gwinnett. We're willing to do those things, and it's tough to go on the road. There's no doubt about that. But I think our conference as a whole is willing to say, hey, we're willing to do it, and and that will help bridge the gap. But there are definitely 4 teams, maybe 5 on the men's side, that when you look at the national ratings, I just looked at the polls that came out today, and you're just going, well, I wish that we could have that matchup, just to be able to say, hey, look, the talent is there. It's just not getting recognized. And it's been interesting. We had some new coaches come in our conference this year from other conferences. They were Raiders in the past, and they'll tell you that our conference has 4 to 5 top teams, not just comparable top teams. And so it is what it is, and just kind of keep going forward and doing our best with it.
It's good.
All right, we'll give you guys a wrap up here. Both of you, again, have home games to start off the conference tournament. Home field advantage, obviously a huge thing. You've had some good student crowds. What's the pitch to kind of fill up those stands these last couple home games?
Tuesday night will probably be 63 degrees. Nice fall day in Florida. Beautiful. Nice day to see outside. That's the way I would say. Come watch a fun, action-packed game. That's it.
Yeah, and for me, hey, come see something new. If you don't know anything about soccer, these are the games you would want to come. It's the playoffs. You're going to get the best effort from the players, hopefully, and the focus is going to be there. So you're going to get hopefully our best version of who we are. But also, hey, have some school spirit. We're all a family. We use the term fire family around here a lot in a lot of different spaces. And so, hey, we need the fire family to show up, for both of the games this week and help us, kind of be that extra player out there on the field that we need.
All right. So I want to talk about one soccerism. So we talked about the ties you can have in soccer. We've talked about the word result in soccer on a previous show. There's one more that I want to ask you about. Soccer coaches love to say, unlucky. Unlucky. Now, what's the difference between unlucky and that was just a bad pass? Like, how do you delineate unlucky? Like, unlucky seems to me as a basketball coach, like you're trying to encourage. Like, it didn't work out, but nice try. But how do you guys see that?
I don't use that term a lot.
Okay.
Very rarely, but they do use it. But the way I would view it is simply as like when two people go in for a tackle, the ball is going to pop out somewhere. It's going to pop out to the other team, and that's unlucky. It could have popped out to you, just didn't work out for you.
And that's truly unlucky.
That's truly unlucky. That's the only way that I view it.
Okay. Coach?
I got nothing. I completely disagree with it. There's no unluckiness about it. It's either terrible or it's good.
That's right.
You know, I mean,
Create your own luck.
a terrible pass.
Yeah,
I don't
believe
care
in
if you
bad
think it's
passes.
unlucky. That is an awful pass. Fix it. Get it right.
That's
for the next
exactly
one.
when I'm watching
Man.
soccer sometime. I hear unlucky. I'm like, that just was bad. Like, you just pass it to the other team. It wasn't unlucky.
It's unlucky if you get a certain referee again, right?
That's unlucky.
That's the way I look at it.
That's unlucky.
Well, guys, thanks so much for joining us today. We
Thank
wish
you.
you the best in the playoffs.
Thank you.
Let's get it done. Publix Delivery, powered by Instacart. Between work and to-do lists, Publix knows your time is valuable. Let them help you regain time in your day by delivering groceries to your door. Learn more at Publix.com/shop. That's Publix.com/shop. Donnie, I know I've asked you this before. Do you use Instacart?
Once, but I'm also not the designated shopper of my household. So once I've used it, and once it was outstanding.
Okay, good. As I've said before, Kim uses it all the time. But
Sure.
designated shopper. Do we need to unpack that at all, or we just need to leave that there?
I think we're good.
Well, let's just jump
Not
right
sure
into
on
things.
the audience sometimes.
Let's jump right into things, starting with volleyball. Firehold are currently 10-2 in Sun Conference play. They've clinched the number 2 spot, which gives them a bye in next Tuesday's quarterfinal. They're behind St. Thomas, who's top seed, 12-0 undefeated in conference. We continue having a great year. How'd it go last week?
Yeah, last week to lock up that number 2 seed, couple of sweeps, took down Warner at their place, and then a big home game on Saturday against Kaiser, beat them 3-0. Again, that's a team that's kind of given us some issues in the past. Played really well at their place, so it's wondering, it's like this is kind of the game to kind of lock them into third and lock Southeastern into second. And they came out and played really well in that contest. Good news, bad news, you're the number 2 seed, but Saturday is going to be the last home game of the year then.
Yeah. So they'll head to St. Thomas the following Friday for a semifinal match. What are some of the highlights as we played those matches last week as far as stats go?
Yeah, I think individually, Tatiana Lyons coming off of a Sun Conference Player of the Week honor was outstanding. Amelia Harding hit really well, had 9 kills, moving her to 181 on the season in that game against Warner. Allie Post-Lethway continues to direct a really good offense, 27 assists against Warner, and then 35 more in the game against Kaiser.
So we talked about playoffs next week, but we've got 2 matches this week. Who do they play?
Yep, on the road to Ave Maria today, and then coming up on Saturday, they will host Florida Memorial for the regular season finale.
All right, well, we wish them the best as they finish out the regular season. Football. Tough loss at Victory Field on Saturday night against Florida Memorial, 35-24. We were up in the fourth quarter there, and just couldn't. They scored 2 touchdowns late. What'd you see out there?
Yeah, I think the defense was probably, it's going to sound weird, but I think the defense played well and kind of did their part. Again, this was a Florida Memorial offense that was one of the best in college football coming in, over 40 points a game, almost 530 yards a game. We kind of held them in check for 3.5 quarters, I would say. Had to be really pleased, especially with a lot of young guys on the field in some key spots. Really take away 2 long plays that they were able to pull up, 1 pass and 1 on the ground. And I think it's a different ball game. So it's tough. You'd rather have some positives in a win than to take the loss and still be encouraged by some things. But I think there's a lot of good things to take away. You look at the first half mistakes that were made, and you're still right in the game. Third quarter, you have the lead once again. So really some good things to take away, even though the result didn't go their way.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, I mean, we gave them the ball deep in our territory twice. Their kicking game is not very strong. Sometimes it's hard to field those kicks that are kind of
line
unorthodox.
drive, knuckleballs.
Yeah, and so and football fumbles happen, but I think for me, and I know you're going to get to some stats, but we had an incident after the game, and I just want to say, I don't want to get into it, but I want to say I was really proud of our guys and our coaches for keeping their cool and doing what they should have done, which is walk away. And so I'm really proud of them. But tell us about some of the stats in this game and some good players.
Yeah, I think the offensive line had one of their better games, and the improvements that they've made this year under Coach Heldreth, neat seeing him come back and kind of get that group to where he thinks they can be.
Yep.
And that's really shown in the rush game. Curtis Kimmons had a great game, 79 yards, picked up his first touchdown. And then back to the defense, Ryan Cunningham led the way with 10 tackles. Trevor Doris, I thought, was outstanding at linebacker, kind of fit in that run game. That was Florida Memorial's biggest strength, was the run game. And I thought our linebackers played really well, and Trevor was right at the top of the tackles.
Well, it's nice to see, obviously with the loss to Kaiser last weekend, the weekend before, the playoff chances are slim. But it's nice to see the team come out and fight, because a lot of times when what you're playing for all year has dissipated, there's a little bit of a letdown. And I didn't see that. So what's next for the team?
Yeah, going to head to Miami Gardens. Things aren't going to get much easier. This is a tough stretch here at the end of the season. They're going to take on St. Thomas, which is playing for a playoff shot. They have one loss on the season in Sun Conference play. But with the new format of the NAIA Football Championship Series expanding to 20, they still have a chance at getting to the postseason. They've traveled just about everywhere, picked up a win at Texas Wesleyan. They went to Carroll. So kind of like what Coach Clay was talking about, getting out of your geographic area and getting your team seen. Coach Reichel's done a really good job of that the last 2 years. They went and beat a St. X team in Chicago that was in the top 15. This year they went and played Carroll, who's a top 15 team. Were right in that game until the last second, won at Texas Wesleyan. So it's not just, hey, why don't you come play us? It's we'll go to you, we'll play you, and then you'll see why we're one of the top 20 teams and put us in the playoffs.
And in talking to Coach Waugh, when he talks about the Bobcats, he says if you look across the field, you see a senior-laden team.
Yep.
A team that came in as they started football 4 years ago and are now just maturing into that senior, really solid team. So it'd be a really good test for us.
Yeah, and just like last week, a really good run game led by Rontavious Farmer. So you're going to have to stop the run once again, but that is not all that they have.
I remember when I coached, there were certain players, and I'm going, is she still playing?
Yeah.
Rontavious Farmer is one of them. When I hear his name, I'm like, is he still have eligibility left?
Absolutely.
Come on. We don't want to face him anymore. Well, Donnie, it's about that time of year. It's one of my favorite times of year. It's basketball season. The air's getting cooler. You hear the basketball and the sneakers squeaking in the gym. Starts this week. Tell us about it.
Yeah, we got a lot of games coming up at the Furnace. So if you're like yourself and you're a basketball junkie, you can watch just about anybody. We've got 8 games starting tomorrow. So noon, 2:30, 5 and 7:30, Thursday and Friday. Southeastern will play the 2 5:00 games. We're hosting the Sun Conference versus Southern States Conference crossover. So you'll see Ave Maria come up. Warner's part of that. St. Thomas is the other Sun Conference team. Middle Georgia, Faulkner, Mobile, and Stillman are coming from the Southern States. So it's kind of split into like an afternoon session and an evening session. I really like our matchups. St. Thomas against Faulkner, us against Mobile. Those should be some really good contests. Southeastern with a chance to prove that they belong in the top 25. St. Thomas is in the top 25. Faulkner hosted a first round last year. Mobile bringing back a solid crew as well. So should be some really good games this weekend.
I always found it interesting to watch your conference opponents playing neutral site games. It's great for scouting. I mean, coaches, I'm sure, are not going to be missing much action from the other 3 teams in the conference playing. How do these teams look?
Yeah, last season Mobile was 18-11. They went 12-8 in the Southern States Conference. They have already played a game. They played Pensacola Christian, beat them 79-51. It'll be interesting to see that Southeastern Faulkner game. Obviously, there's some history there. We went to Faulkner last year as part of this tournament and played there in December. Then we went back up there for the opening round with 2 big wins, beating Union and beating Faulkner to head to the round of 16. Faulkner's already a game in as well when they beat Fisk the other day, 89-84. So obviously nothing's changed there. They're still a very high-scoring team. So the key is going to be to try and hold them down or keep pace with them.
And for us, it's the post Riley Minix era starts. And I know there's as a coach, you hate to see a great player go, and we certainly wish Riley the best. But the other side of that coin is you get a fresh start. And so I know, Coach Lee is excited about, the new guys that are coming in and trying to see how this team gels. So it should be really fun to watch this weekend.
Absolutely. Looking forward to this roster again that Coach Lee's kind of built a little bit. Got a handful of transfers, some new guys that are going to be able to step right in and help us out.
Yeah, it should be interesting as it starts tomorrow. As for women's basketball, they are in this same type of tournament, but they travel this year. We hosted they were in Florida last year. They travel to Faulkner, and Faulkner hosts the women's side of the SSAC Sun Challenge. What do you see there?
Couple of good games, especially that Loyola matchup. They start out as a top 25 team. Loyola, I think just the other day, had an exhibition against LSU. Yes, them.
Yeah.
And then last week, I think they had an exhibition against Tulane. So they might come in a little bit beat up, but I think also that gives their coaching staff a chance to look at who they are because, teams like that are going to expose you pretty quick.
Yeah.
It gives you an early jump on kind of that self-scout of some areas of concern that once you get into the NAI, you've got some things shored up and you know what you're up against pretty quick.
Well, of course, we got Coach Brian Neal in his first season here. I know he's talking to him yesterday. He's excited about the season, excited to get it. You practice for so long here at the beginning. Let's just play somebody else. But we've got an exciting roster. We're banged up a little bit here to start. But to have 15 players on the roster, great mix of freshmen, returners, and transfers. I think there's a lot of exciting times ahead for this team.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when you look at the Sun Conference, it's kind of hard to tell here in the early going. That poll at the top was pretty tight. Southeastern comes in at number 1, St. Thomas right behind them. I think Southeastern had 3 first-place votes, St. Thomas with 2. So it could be a little bit of a toss-up. Florida Memorial, the defending champion, they lost a little bit. But, again, I think they've got a solid group down there coming back. So I think it's really wide open. You're going to find out a lot with all these conference games now being second semester this year. You're going to get a chance to know what you have going into that second semester.
Yeah, that's great. Looking forward to seeing how the women do this weekend. Well, let's turn to golf. The men's and women's team hosted the SU Invitational over at Grasslands right in town here. They both won. I believe the women thought they lost. In fact, I think Coach Joyner was congratulating the Ave Maria coach or whoever was second. But Scad.
Little Dewey defeats Truman moment.
Yeah, so he can, and then Brooke runs up and says, we birdied the 18th or the 18th, and we won by 1. So tell us a little bit about
that's the challenge a little bit with the shotgun start is just when you think everything's in, there may be one group that you didn't know was still out there or finishing up a hole or whatever the case was. Played really well on Monday. I thought what was interesting was Maria Stevens in the first round on the women's side set the program record for low 18 score at 68. Wow. And then within 4.5 hours, Marley Smith shoots 67.
That's crazy.
So the team played really well. And then as a team, they were even par, 288 in the second round, and then ended up hanging on to win by 1 shot, as you mentioned. On the men's side, again, a 1-shot victory. Ave Maria played really well with a pair of school record team scores, but Matthew Sosanek kind of cruised a victory there, posting a 65 in the second round, played even in the second round on Tuesday, and was 71 in the first round on Monday. So he was pretty well over the whole weekend and picked up his second win.
And I know the men struggled out of the gate here this year, but it's good to see, and talking to Coach, it's good to see them picking it up here. And really, if you look at men's and women's golf historically, we had Coach Phelps who did a good job here for a long time, but when we brought on David Joyner as the assistant coach, Coach Joyner really focused on the women and Coach Phelps on the men. And when you have a coaching change, it's interesting because the women didn't get a new coach. Really, they just had Coach Joyner, but the men did. And so sometimes with a coaching change, different philosophy, different points of emphasis, sometimes it takes a little bit, but it's good to see the guys really stepping up here, and it's going to be an exciting spring.
Yeah, and then you mentioned some of those younger players getting involved. Marley Red struggled a little bit in the first tournament at Innisbrook, and he was our second guy, finished second in the tournament this week. So I think they're a pretty tight group. Also, we had a B team. Since it was our tournament, we were able to golf some extra guys. Some of those guys on the B team showed that they were right there as well. So I think the depth here in this penultimate tournament kind of showed as well. They're going to go to Reinhardt for one more. And I think what also is an interesting tidbit this year is usually you've got 2 or 3 ratings for the NAI that come out in the fall due to some changes with reporting and statistical software. Those are all getting pushed back to the spring. So some of those early challenges that the teams faced aren't even going to hurt them in the polls. All the teams are going to see when the raters look in the February are how they're playing in that first tournament in January and how they ended in the fall.
Well, and it's interesting you say that about the B team, because the best teams that I coached over the years had a great bench.
Yeah.
Because you've got to have competition and practice to sharpen you up for the when the lights are on. And so it's good. I mean, when they go out to grasslands and practice, everybody's getting pushed every day. So that can't be bad for the team. All right, so we'll move to cross country. Okay, it's also playoff time for cross country. They head to Ave Maria this weekend for the conference championship on Saturday morning. What's it look like for the men and women as they head down there?
Yeah, the last time Ave Maria hosted it, we ended up winning both the men's and the women's. Men's team looks like they're in position to win it. John Perez-Dunn has been outstanding this year. On the women's side, it looks like SCAD might be the team to beat on that side, but we're right there. Obviously, it's going to depend on how the conditions and everything and health and how everybody runs. But, we're in a position to finish first or second on both sides.
Well, I'll be there. I have a busy weekend. I'm going down to Ave Maria for that meet, and then headed over to St. Thomas for football. Now we have a new sport in the athletic department. We've talked about this before, but esports has joined the athletic department family. What's new with them?
Yeah, I think the exciting part is in Madden, Isaac Erickson's already qualified for the playoffs on that side. They're going to have another match in Madden coming up on Thursday against Post University. Also took a loss on Monday in FC 24. And I think, like I told Dr. Engel last week, the interesting thing about esports is we're getting a chance to play teams that we never have played before or maybe have only been familiar with in name only.
Yeah.
Getting those schools on your schedule has kind of been a neat experience.
What's interesting that I found is interesting about esports, and I tuned in a little bit over the last few years, but this year I've listened a little bit more. Ethan Kador, our coach, does the play-by-play for. I heard him do Madden, right? So but if you tune in to other teams' broadcast of Madden, let's say, Coach Kador is very professional. Run to the left, run to the right, drops back, just very good commentary. But you hear, oh, he sucks, like you hear like they pulled some guy out, like, hey, just be on the broadcast.
Talk for a little bit.
And they're talking trash.
It's easy, anybody can do it, trust me.
It's almost like they handed a microphone to the guy sitting next to him. Like,
sure.
He's also playing and he's talking trash with his friends. But we wish Coach Kador and the team luck the rest of the semester here. Well, Donnie, that's a wrap for today. Thanks so much for everyone for joining us. As we close, I want to remind you to come out to our home games this week. Men's basketball, 5 o'clock the next 2 days. Mobile tomorrow, Faulkner Friday. Volleyball Saturday, 2 o'clock against Florida Memorial. Men's soccer, big quarterfinal matchup Saturday night, 7 o'clock up here in the north side of campus against Weber.
Looking forward to a great weekend.
Yeah, make sure you visit sufire.com for the latest in fire athletics. You can find the events calendar as well as a link to watch all of our home games. Good luck to all of our teams this week. Go Fire!